So Sarah Luth is an administrative professional with over 25 years of experience providing flexible, detailed, and fast-paced support to teams and individuals. She has a love of technology and enjoys exploring new systems. She really does. She owns and operates CVA Pros, a boutique virtual assistant firm. They work with entrepreneurs and small businesses, helping them grow beyond their current pain points by providing experienced talent, know-how, dedication, and skills to execute your plans, brainstorm for plan B or H or J or K, and move you closer to your goals. Sarah and I met through a biz coaching program during COVID.
Yep.
Yeah, we met during COVID. Sarah is probably one of my biggest consciences in the world. Like if I want to think something or do something, I usually go to Sarah and ask for her advice. Never been in the same room with her in person, but always been in a lot of virtual rooms with her. I consider her a very, very good friend. Sarah, welcome to the In Transition podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's nice to meet you, Lauren. Corey, as always, it's awesome to talk to you. I will say I did just put in my passport applications, so there's a possibility the in-person thing might happen sooner rather than later.
Woo. That reminds me, I need to renew my passport.
So do I. Expired during COVID.
Yeah, mine, I couldn't find mine for a minute, and then I found it and I looked, I'm like, oh, yes, I can still, I think there's like a year that you can do it in where it's not as pricey. So I definitely need that because at some point in time, I'm going to be in the Maldives. I'm going to manifest that into my life. So
good plan.
And I need to be in Canada, and I need to come to Canada.
Yeah, you do.
I do.
We are as a team collectively working on manifesting the Maldives or Bora Bora or not Canadian winters is what we'd like.
That's fair.
I need the yacht life. I just need it for a season, with really good Wi-Fi where we can all just sit in different parts of the yacht and just dominate the world, preferably in the Greek Isles.
Yeah. My one of my teammates is trying to convince me I need to save up the 300,000 US to take that 3-year live on a cruise ship cruise. So it's $300,000. It cruises the entire world. You have day excursions, day offs everywhere, but you live on the cruise ship for 3 years and work and do whatever.
Cruise ships, I don't know. I've never been on a cruise ship. I feel like people come back dead. I've seen Dateline.
3 years on
it depends on the cruise ship. I think
no, I've seen enough. Nope. I watched I can't do it. Nope. I'd rather get on a plane and fly 33 hours or however many hours it is to go to Ghana, which no one, by the way, will go with me. I'm done. I feel a certain way about it.
Oh,
nobody will go with me.
Well,
I have other places I want to go first, but I can add that to the list.
Why can't you just push it up to the top? I'm just saying.
Because I need to surprise a friend for his 40th birthday, which is how I found out my passport was expired 2 years
Why
ago.
don't we meet in Ghana for the surprise?
Because he doesn't have a passport at all, him and his wife.
Oh no.
So first I have to go to the wild and exotic locale of Wisconsin.
Okay.
It's wild out there, people.
Yeah.
Good cheese, though.
Good cheese. I was gonna say good cheese.
They were talking to me and they're like, when you come here, this is great. Like the closest big city is Milwaukee, but you don't want to go there. I'm like, why? Maybe I want to Laverne and Shirley my way for a few minutes and just like do that dance and song number. Like, why can't
on that street.
Yeah. Why can't I?
R.I.P. Shirley Williams. Is that her name? Was it Shirley? Penny? No.
Shirley was her character.
Oh, you're going to be thinking about this.
We'll move on. Also, a little fun fact about Sarah. Sarah is, if you haven't already guessed, she is based in Canada, which makes Sarah our very first international guest.
Woo-hoo.
That's right. We're global. We're global.
Yep. And we love Canada.
We do.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We love when people love us too.
We know.
I was invited to move to Canada when the first election was happening with Trump. And they're like, well, are you prepared to move up here if things go the way we think they're going to go? Like, because we will welcome you with open arms. I was like, oh, well, that's a really nice offer.
You know, my country, like we can be conservative. We do have pockets that mimic a lot of the conservative parts of the US. And I'm happy to say that most people I associate with in the region I live in tends to be a little bit more liberal, a little bit more forward thinking, but you know, things are going to go wrong when my whole country is like, oh, that's
Oh, that's not good.
like when the people from Quebec actually agree with Western Canada, that's a sign. Like if that is not the second coming, I don't know what is.
What is it? I think I remember during the election that there was this meme going around where it was like, Canada has got to feel like they're they live above a meth house. And I'm just like, it's accurate. So accurate. But
Yeah.
I think it's good to know that I'm not the only person, and I knew I wasn't, but it's good to know that Lauren, you two also had people offering to basically welcome you to a different country. I think one of my really good friends, she's like, we've looked at Portugal. And I'm like, oh, okay. She goes, I know exactly what you need to do to move to Portugal as an expat. I'm like, okay, I was just going to go to Canada, but okay. Yeah.
That's a hot spot. That's a hot spot.
Yeah,
But that's neither here nor there. Like, why is Sarah here today?
Sarah is
what is
here.
Sarah talking about with us? We could like banter forever.
We could have banter forever and a day. Sarah is here to speak with us about her transition of leaving the full-time employee world to becoming the badass entrepreneur that is with us today. Sarah, just go in it, girl. Just let's talk.
So I think one of the things that strikes me when most people talk about starting their own business, they're like, I need to do it safely. I need to do it securely. I need to have a plan. I had no plan. Literally, I was constructively dismissed from a job, which for those who don't know the legal term, basically means my employer said one thing and did another, and basically effectively replaced me while I was still employed. I had not given notice. They hadn't given me notice. So basically that's constructive dismissal. So at that point, I don't have to come back to work. The problem is if I don't come back to work, I don't have a job. But also, if you're willing to replace me, are you actually going to pay me my time?
Yeah.
Till I'm still working there.
That sounds like a huge catch-22.
Yeah.
That sounds like an Office Space scenario.
It really does.
Yeah. And it's one of those things.
We fixed the glitch.
Right? It's a he said, she said thing. Yep.
Yeah.
He said, she said, you can take them to court and fight it, but it is not for the $900 I would have got. It would have cost me more in legal costs, right? So I was just like, oh no, what am I gonna do? I got 2 weeks. I need to pay a mortgage. Like,
ooh,
yeah,
right? Like that's it. So my transition was I had a job on the Monday, and by Tuesday I put out my shingle and started hooking.
Okay.
Not literal hooking.
No, not literal hooking, ladies and gentlemen.
Not a woman of the streets.
No, not that there's anything wrong with being one of these people, should you so choose. I don't care.
To each their own.
Who you bang is who you bang, and it's none of my business. But it's true. It's
true.
My take on most people's private lives. I don't care.
What you do is your business.
Unless you're doing it in front of me, in which case I don't want to see it. Please go do it behind a closed door.
Because then you've made it my business. And
and I still don't have an opinion on what or who you're doing. I just don't want to see it.
I don't want to see it.
No. But no, literally it was, what can I do really rapidly that doesn't involve an interview process where I can make some money really quickly.
Wow.
And I decided that all I really have right at that point in time is my skills as an administrator. And I was like, oh, well, people are making this work. Let's do this really fast. Like maybe I can get a client or two. In 3 weeks, I had 4 clients.
Wow.
I have great friends who did a really good job of shouting out what I was doing.
Wow. Yeah.
I got my first 4 clients. I made that mortgage payment. And slowly over the last 7 years, I've just adapted and refined what I did. Did I have a plan or a safety net? Heck no. I barely had a website and a plan.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like how to start your own business over vodka or tequila. Like it's exhilarating and terrifying all at the same time.
Yeah.
But I think in some levels, like sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes you like kind of need that fear of, I can't make my mortgage. I can't do this, because it's almost like if I don't do it now, that's maybe where I'm going with this. If you were not put in that situation with your actual job, would you have ever thought about doing this?
I had thought about doing this for about 5, maybe 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Before I actually did it, right? Like there's a certain point when you work in corporate, especially as an administrative assistant, where your soul is on the precipice of dying and you're about to give up hope of there ever being sunlight and rainbows and unicorns in your work environment. And I tossed around like, what would happen if I was a VA? What would that look like for me? How would I feel? Would I like it? Would I not like it? And you can play the what if game. What if I don't get clients? What if I don't have a plan? What if I don't make money? What if? And you can what if yourself right into staying in that corporate beige box
Mhm.
and never having a window view.
Yeah.
And the what ifs can kill you. The what ifs kill creativity. They kill your sense of excitement. They kill that sense of wonder. So when I decided to do it, because I had been thinking about it, I mean, Corey, you know me, I had already, because I've been thinking about it for so long, I'd already looked at what is the absolute worst case scenario that would happen to me.
Yeah.
Right. And the worst case scenario was what exactly would happen to me if I couldn't get a job after leaving the job.
Yeah.
I would be on unemployment for a little while and looking for new work. That was the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
I could still call my bank and get a mortgage payment forgiveness and bump it out. Right. That could all still happen. It was totally fine. Did I do that? No, I just straight up went, oh crap, I need a job. And I started doing what I've been thinking about for years.
Oh,
That's big.
Mm-hmm.
I think that so many people that would be in that situation would be in like that fight, flight, or freeze moment of like, I'm gonna go lay in bed for the next week because I'm super depressed. I'm not gonna do anything. You got to work.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and he made me mad. So mad. I mean, so here's a hot tip for everybody. Ready? Here's the hot tip. If you screw over your administrative assistant, make sure they don't know where the bodies are.
I love the fact that you just took a sip of water after you dropped that. Very dramatic. I felt that.
It is, right? Like in this particular case, this was a person, like I've been working with them for 6 months. I'd been actively working to improve their business. I'd made positive changes.
Yeah.
And he just didn't like that somebody else besides him could implement changes and run things and manage things
Better than he had been.
Yeah, probably much better.
And so by firing me, that by constructively dismissing me the way he did, that's, I don't do business that way.
Yeah.
I've always done my best when I've left other jobs to like leave a decent amount of time. When I left my job at BlackBerry, for example, to go to this work with this person, I left a 6-page manual of how to do my job and recommendations for who on my team should take over my roles.
Oh, wow.
And I gave them 3 weeks notice. Like,
yeah, you put them in a good position.
Yeah, I really did. Where I could have actually given my notice right before Christmas, taken my 2 weeks vacation and not gone back to BlackBerry. I actually went back for 3 weeks after the holidays to transition myself out, so.
You didn't burn a bridge.
No, right? Like, so he didn't build a bridge. He didn't even attempt to like fortify a footpath. Like he literally was just like, oh, I'm sorry, here's the edge, boop, and pushed me off. So because your admin assistant typically will know where the bodies are buried, that meant calls to the Ministry of Labor and Canada Revenue Agency to report some inaccurate paperwork and reporting.
She's going to take another sip of water. I felt that.
Yep.
And it's not water, it's tea. It's tea.
It's tea.
Same thing.
It's just effectively
It's
water.
actually tea. I'm actually drinking tea while giving you the tea.
I see what you did there. I see that.
Right? Yeah, no, it's funny. But yeah, so just, I always like to say people always, in my experience, people at higher levels, owners, senior executives tend to poo-poo the administrative assistant as just being necessary, but not necessarily critical. Except that all the stuff we touch, we're the people you don't want to upset ever. Like ever. We can hide your stuff or we can expose it to the daylight. Like just depends on how you treat us.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that rings so true because I mean, the admin assistant is basically the backbone of a company.
Yeah.
You are the support. You are the person that holds everything up and maintains the front facing optic of a company, and so, yeah, I think that sometimes on some level, society has made the admin assistant space, the admin assistant position, one of like, it's not that well regarded, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you're just going to answer the phone. You're just going to type a few papers. You're just going to send a fax. And in actuality, no, there's so much more to it. And I think a lot of people, I had a call one day with a client and they said, if I were to ever leave this company would fold in 2 weeks. And I'm like, whoa. Because when you think about it, you're the go-to person. Okay, well, go ask Sarah. She knows this, she knows this. So before I jump to my one of my questions, when you were in that W-2 space, knowing that that people were always like the go-to, knowing what was being done in terms of business practices may not have been on the up and up. How did that, I mean, were you relieved when you were constructively dismissed? Because it's like you didn't have to deal with all that stress and strain and pressure.
Yeah. Leaving that particular situation for sure. That was like a weight off my shoulder. Like I didn't have to fight to do things the right way. I didn't have to fight to do things above board and over the table instead of under the table. You know, it in some ways, like I slept better that night than I had in months. Right? Like, yes, I was stressed about what I was going to do next, how I'd make money, but man, I did not have to go back into that space.
That's so telling for a lot of people that are probably listening. You know, it's like you stay in a job because you have bills, because you have responsibilities, because you have obligations to things, but there's a part of you that it just really, really fucks with your mental health and just your overall state of wellness, because you're willingly subjecting yourself to stuff that just does not align with you, who you are as a person. It doesn't align with your values. It's totally completely contrary to who you are, you know? Kudos to you for stepping out like that. Well, you were literally put in a sink or swim.
Kind of force, but
yeah.
I mean, she could have done the safe thing and gone right back into corporate. Cause I think that's when I talk to a lot of women, that's always the thing they're weighing, right? Because a lot of women have great ideas, want to be entrepreneurs or thinking about it, but they're like, oh, the safety of that like 9 to 5 and the benefits package, like especially in the US, like gotta have the benefits package, right?
Yeah.
It's stressful.
Last year, I can say last year I was actually scouted for a corporate position. And I even went so far as to do a couple of the interviews and meet with the team and hear what their offer was. And I literally had to take a couple of days. They gave me a 2-week window to decide, and I took almost the entirety of the 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm like, oh, the security of this position. Oh, this comes with a bonus program, and look at these perks, and they didn't quibble at this, and they're willing to pay that. And I was like, oh man, this is a team I could work for too. They're great. And in the end, I turned it down, obviously, because I'm here doing what I do, but I turned it down, not because it wasn't a great position, not because it wasn't a terrific team. The compensation was killer it was a local company, and for my area, typically they make almost 50% less than they do in bigger cities here.
Okay.
Right? So in Toronto, my salary would be in and around $70,000 US Canadian per year, plus benefits and perks. Out here where I live in London, typically I might be making 45, 50 if I'm lucky.
What's the distance between Toronto and London?
We're about 180 kilometers, so about 2 hours. It's about 2 hours of drive time. And when I say I'd make, I mean specifically my skill set would make, but generally speaking, salaries here cap out around 40, 45,000. So I'd be making half of what I'd be Canadian, be making half of what I made in Toronto. And this company was willing to pay me almost a Toronto rate, plus perks, benefits, the vacation package I wanted. So it wasn't an easy decision. It was an uncomfortable decision for sure.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
But for me, what sold it was I get to continue doing the parts of what I love. So I get to continue to help entrepreneurs and small businesses, especially those who are women, female presenting, or led by women and female presenting people. I get to continue to tell people what to do and get paid for it, which makes me happy.
Yeah. Well, and that's the piece people don't understand about assistants, right? Because we think, oh, they're like secretaries. Like we think back to like the good old days of like Mad Men and like what's portrayed there. Like, yeah, I answer the phone and, you know,
Make
maybe
coffee.
respond to some emails. But I was like, people don't realize the assistants are like the extension of the executive a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And that's how I run it for my clients, is I'm that person. I know what your business is. I know what you're doing. I know your calendar. I know your schedule. I know who you want to talk to. I know the kind of client you want to work with. Awesome. I'm going to already filter stuff before it even gets to you.
Yeah.
So one of my clients the other day was saying, well, this guy contacted me and said he couldn't get booked in on my calendar. I'm like, yeah, I know, because you don't want to work with them. So I told him you were busy for the next 3 months.
You're the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Like, I'm
Whoa.
protecting you.
Yeah.
Mhm. I'm the dragon at the front gates. You don't get past unless I know you can get past. No, thank you. I recently have started having more conversations with my clients about healthy boundaries, and especially as women and female presenting individuals, there is a large historical societal influence where we have to be quieter, we have to be meeker, we have to say yes, we have to please, we have to do what we're told. No, nuh-uh, you don't have to. So a lot of my clients, I'm one of the first people in their lives to say, you're allowed to say no. It's
Wow.
not a bad word. It's a full sentence. You don't have
It
to
is.
explain anything,
Sentence.
right?
It's a full sentence.
It's a full sentence. No, I don't have to explain. I don't have to justify to you. You just have to understand that I said no,
Mhm.
and that's the end of the conversation.
Mhm.
Because some of my clients are uncomfortable with that, we work on other wording. Like, I'm sorry, I'm unavailable for that right now.
Yeah.
It's no, it's
Okay.
just a nicer no, right?
Yeah.
But allowing them the boundary, the freedom to set a boundary that's protective
Mhm.
instead of opening a boundary and overwhelming themselves.
Mhm.
Knowing that I can do that, for me, is huge. Like, in my family, I'm the oldest of 2 siblings, so it's always been my role is to protect my little sister.
Yeah.
My little sister will tell you she never needed it, but always liked it. And I do the same sort of thing for my clients, right? After a certain amount of time, I'm very protective of them. I'm very protective of their time, you know, and no, you cannot take advantage of my client. Like, no, just no, sorry.
No.
We were having a discussion this morning on my 10 o'clock call, and there is a client coming in that my client isn't 100% certain she really wants to work with. And she's like, you booked me an hour. I'm like, I know, but I need you to have the conversation. Well, I won't need an hour. I'm not coaching him. I don't want you to coach him for free. It's not the point. I'm like, I want you to talk to them. I want you to find out what he's looking for, what he wants to do, what he wants to achieve, make sure it's a good fit for you, because otherwise we don't want to work with him anyway.
But at least she would know.
Yep.
Right? I'm like, but have that conversation. Find out who's paying for the coaching with you. Is it him? Is it his company? Is he going to expense it? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Sure, it might only take you 32 minutes. I'm like, but now that rest of that hour you have blocked off, you can tell me what went down.
Mhm.
We can talk about it. We can put the proposal together and get it to him within a half an hour. Will look amazing. Like, but we protected your time. We didn't book you back to back. There's space to breathe. You're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Because in corporate, one of the things you'll find is executives are like, 9 a.m. my day starts. So I've got a call from 9 to 9:30. I have a call from 9:30 to 10. I have a call from 10 to 11. I have a call from 11 to 11:45. I have a call at noon until 1:15. Like, literally their whole day has like 2 15-minute breaks, and they're supposed to eat lunch and pee. Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
right. And even for entrepreneurs, it's even worse because we do that to ourselves.
Mhm. All
Right?
the
We
time.
work all the time. We get up in the morning, we have breakfast, we start working, and then at some point we remember that we should really go to the bathroom and maybe eat something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? And then you just go right back to work. And then you're like, oh, it's bedtime.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So again, helping my clients create healthy boundaries means I have to set a schedule for them sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, for everyone listening, I feel like every single episode we've done, whether it's been Corey and I sharing our stories, our guests coming on, boundaries has come up
All the time.
everyone.
Every episode.
Every
In
episode.
in different ways every single time.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's something I talk when I do coaching with women. We talk a lot about boundaries because women, for whatever reason, have the hardest time with boundaries. We like to call it like the people pleasing mode we get in a lot of time too, or it's like you said, we got to say yes. And I always tell them, I'm like, you can't just start having hard boundaries usually if you're used to not having them at all.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you got to tip your toes into having boundaries. And my go-to strategy is always like, if someone asks you to do something that you don't, that's not like a full body immediate yes, you say, let me think about that and I'll get back to you.
That's a safe start to boundary setting.
Yeah, because I'm like, in the moment, you're going to lean on like what you know, which is to say yes. But if you give yourself space, breathe through it, and you're like, no, this is not a yes for me.
Right.
You might come back and be like, it's
you gotta get past that automatic response that's been conditioned, right? When I got married the first time, I've been married twice, so
I did not know that.
I have. I'm sorry. My first marriage just lasted like maybe 2 minutes.
Maybe that's why I didn't know about it.
No.
a hot minute.
My first husband and I, we were great together when we were dating, but getting married, sometimes when you get married, what that means to people isn't readily apparent. And even if you talk about it, it still changes how people behave once you are married, once that actually becomes a reality. And for us, we were just terrible together as a married couple.
Oh, wow.
But when I married him, my in-laws at the time wanted to include me in all things family. And when it came to the wedding, they were pushing their ideas on it hard. And they're like, but we'll pay for it. I'm like, I said to my mom, I need a way to say no that doesn't sound like, fuck you sideways. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, because that's what I mean.
Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Right. And so my mom, it's a great phrase and I use it still to this day. I mean, it's 20 years later. Oh, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought about it like that. Let me think about it.
Ooh.
Right. So it acknowledges that the other person said something that has potential value to you, which makes them feel good, which 9 times out of 10 is all they want anyway, is for you to recognize and validate that they said something important.
Yeah.
But then my response is an unqualified, I don't think so. Right? Like it's undetermined, but it's enough because I've acknowledged what they said that usually then if I don't do that, they're like, oh, she must not have really thought it would work. So that's great. She thought about it.
That's like you said, that's pretty much what they want. They at least want acknowledgement that thank you for that. I'll take it under advisement type thing.
Yeah. And for those people who are going to say that's a type of manipulation, yes, it is. But as I tell all the people in my life, I am upfront and obvious about the manipulation when I do it.
Yeah.
I don't hide the manipulation. It is not sneaky or malicious. It is right there in front of you.
It's just low key manipulation, Sarah, just low key.
And then if you ever were to get in a position where you've said that and you ultimately decide to not go with whatever idea, they can't really, even though we know that there's a possibility they can't really get upset about it because you told them. I really never thought about that way. Let me give it some thought.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought about it. It's not going to work.
Yeah. And the few times somebody's come back and questioned it, I'm like, oh, yeah, let me tell you why. Here's my thought about it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks for explaining. No problem.
Yeah, sure. And if they still are upset about it, that's on you.
I took the personal out of it by acknowledging that what they said had validity and was important.
Yeah.
And now we can just talk about the thing and the decision, and there's no personal attachment. I didn't reject them. I didn't reject their opportunity or their idea. Like I took the time, I thought about it. I thought about how I wanted to implement whatever it was I was implementing. And it's just not going to work with how I want to do it. But thanks. It was a great idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
I appreciate the perspective.
So let's stay on this boundary conversation because I feel like this is a really good place to be. It sounds like you help your clients establish boundaries. That's like part of your job.
Yep.
But I'd love to hear from like the entrepreneurial perspective, because this is somewhere where I see so many women struggle once they become entrepreneurs, like holding their boundaries. How does that come into play in your own professional life?
It's hard. It's hard. It's hard for me because I like to do hard for me because I feel most secure in my life when I have control. And after my almost 48 years, I have learned to rules lawyer myself, so I can change where my point of control is. So previously, like in my 20s, it would make me psychotic to have to hand things over to other people and then watch them do things not how I would do them.
Because your way was the only way.
Literally, yeah, I would
Yes.
literally melt down and be like, oh, that's so wrong.
God, you're doing it so wrong. Just give it back. Just give it back.
take it back.
Stop touching it. Stop touching it. Now I can change it so that my thinking is my point of control is the handoff moment, right? I'm choosing to give this to you. That's my control. Whatever you do with it is a you thing. I have given you the best I can.
Yeah.
So my need to control things and have control over stuff means when it comes to balancing being an entrepreneur and being a wife and mom to my 2 small miniature horses, I have great dates.
Oh,
I have great dates. So
okay. Yeah, miniature horse is correct.
Yeah.
They are huge.
Yeah. So being their mom, being my wife, my husband's wife, being the daughter to my mom, being my sister's sister, it's a challenge because I don't want to put the work down, because if I put the work down, I can't make sure it happens. I can't make sure it does what I need it to do. I can't make sure that it's going to hit the completion point. So how do I manage my own boundaries and say no to things is a huge challenge. One of the things for me that's critical to me being a happy-go-lucky entrepreneurial person is I don't take client calls before 10 a.m.
Okay.
I just don't. I don't morning well. I never have.
I don't morning well.
I like that. I don't morning.
I don't morning well.
I don't morning well.
I feel like that should be on a sweatshirt. I feel like it.
Yep.
My
I
girlfriend.
think a lot of people fall into that. Some people don't evening well.
I
Right?
don't,
And that's just
I don't
it.
evening well. I don't.
There are people who are like super morning people. There are people that are afternoon people, right? I am and have always been happier later at night, past the evening hour towards midnight. That is where I'm happiest.
Okay.
So as a consequence, I don't want a morning. And if I have to be up early in the morning, I certainly don't want a people. Like
She said, I don't want to.
There's 2 boundaries tied to that one.
If I have to be up
I don't
early,
morning and I don't people.
yeah, no. If I have to be up before 9 a.m., please don't talk to me until I've had a couple of cups of tea and it's been like 2 hours since I got up. Like,
And I'm sure everyone in your world knows this about you too.
Yeah. My husband has adapted to it. He's totally fine with it. He's actually, oh my God, my husband is the cutest freaking thing. My husband has made it a routine when he's home that, because he's a long haul trucker, so he's not always here. He will make tea in the morning as soon as I'm awake, bring me a cup, and then we just sit and have tea together in the quiet without talking.
I love that.
It's so cute. I love it.
Good.
Well, I mean, that's like, to me, that always has felt like the test of a like true relationship where you can be in silence with the person. You're not trying to fill the silence or talk all the time. Some of my best friends is like, we can just shut up.
Yep.
We can shut the fuck up.
And I was about to say it's not. Oh, I'm sorry. We keep cutting each other off. Go ahead, Sarah, because I'm going to relinquish control to you to speak. Go ahead.
I was going to say, because my mom and I say that that's IKEA furniture. It's not the quiet. Anybody can be quiet, but if you can assemble IKEA furniture and still want to see each other, that's a good relationship.
That is true. That is true. I have a friend that he and his wife decided they ordered something from Wayfair and they decided that they were going to put it together. And he's like, I almost filed for divorce. I'm like, dude, it was a bookcase. God, that's shaky. You guys got like 20 years together. What? He's like,
I mean, you'd think it's a bookcase, but that's some press board and weird locking screws and
those,
dowels.
yeah, those pegs, the dowels that will break off if you put them in wrong. The glue doesn't work. But he was just like, now I just pay the extra money to have a team come in and assemble. I'm not doing it. I'm not. No. But to Lauren's point, the key to, a really good relationship is if you can sit in silence. I was going to say that's not just in romantic relationships. That's in anything, if you can sit in a space of absolute or fair or majority of it silent with a person, that's one of your people. That is legitimately one of your people. Hold on to them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
speaks to like a certain level of comfort where you're like, I don't have to say anything. If I
I
don't
always
want
tell people like, I don't have to be Corey, if that makes sense.
I don't have to be on is how I say it.
Yeah, I don't have to be Corey. I think that as we age I'm right there with Sarah. Oh my God, my birthday's a month from Sunday. Anyway,
Taurus season.
Taurus. Anyway, I think that, as you get older, okay, I lost my train of thought, ADHD kicking in. Let's just move on. Let's just go.
Like, let's because this is about entrepreneurship, that transition to entrepreneurship that I know so many of our listeners are contemplating. And it's something like I contemplated for years too, right? But I always had that voice that was like, no, you're not an entrepreneur. Imposter syndrome, like to the max. You're
Mhm.
not built to do that. You don't want to work that hard, all the things. What do you think from your experience tells someone like they're ready to take that leap? If there is a sign or something, they're like,
Yeah.
latch onto this. Because like you said, you don't have to have the plan, right?
No,
I mean,
Not
you're
everyone
living
has the
proof of
plan.
that. Yeah.
no,
You
there
had an
is no.
idea. Clearly, you had an idea.
Yeah, had an idea. That was literally it. I'm gonna sell administrative assistant services. Boom. That was my idea. That was it.
Okay. When are you ready to take the leap?
What makes you ready? Oh gosh. I think there's a certain point where the status quo or what's widely accepted is that's how you do it. You start looking at going, but is it?
Okay.
Like when you start to question that, you're ready for something beyond that. It doesn't necessarily have to be entrepreneurship too. Like as an administrative assistant, if you work in legal, that could mean becoming a paralegal or a law clerk or becoming a lawyer itself. Those are all scary decisions to make to go to from an administrative point of view. But specifically for entrepreneurs, you get to a point where you question the established quo and you want to do it differently. So for me personally, what I like about owning my own business now, doing this my way, is I am the boss that I always looked for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My team, and I do have a team, when they need a day, they just tell me. I don't need to know why. I don't need you to justify it to me. You just need to tell me you're overwhelmed and can't today. Awesome. Somebody else on the team will take over. Let me know when you're ready. That's what happens. We joke, we have fun, we talk, we're playing video games together in off hours. Like that's the kind of team I have.
Yeah.
And it allows me to be positive and encouraging and supportive without being, did you meet this tick box? Did you meet this tick box? Like, can you do this? Can you do this? We're not an automaton. I don't treat my team like we're robots or tissue paper coming out of a box. It's important to me that the world see that the people who work with you and support you are people.
Yeah.
And that the skills we have are valuable and important. So for me, being an entrepreneur, I'm changing the world one team member, one client at a time. I make little ripples all the time that change how things get done. I was just sorry.
No, go ahead.
You first. Nope,
you first. Go ahead.
No, look, I'm Canadian. We could do this all day long.
I mean, I'm here all day for it. But what I was going to say is that you yourself are creating these little ripples with everything you touch, everybody you talk to, but you're actually showing your team, this is a way to do it because I hate this cliche phrase, and I know Lauren's going to crack up when I say it, because your team now feels seen, valued, and heard. Go ahead and laugh, Lauren. Go ahead.
But it's true. They
Go
do.
back to that acknowledging and validating. We all want to be validated.
Right? But it's true. And it sounds really corny. And it's something I know that you and I have talked about, Corey, quite a lot. But for most people, especially people in an administrative role, that doesn't happen.
Never.
Or when it does, it's backhanded.
Yeah.
Right? It comes with, you were great, but.
Exactly. It's a backhanded compliment. Yeah.
So Sorry, Lauren, go ahead.
I love everything you were saying. Like, if you are someone who likes to challenge the status quo, I was like, that was the first thing I latched on. I was like, yep.
Mhm.
You don't like to accept things at face value.
Yep.
Loved your comment about being the boss you always wish you had.
Mhm.
Because how many of us have been in that situation where you're like, my soul is being sucked from me
Mhm.
working for this human or this team of humans.
Mhm.
But yet we feel stuck. So it's like, yeah, who wouldn't want to be the kind of boss they've always looked for? Thank you so much for tuning in to part 1 of this conversation. We appreciate our listeners more than you could ever know. Stay tuned for part 2 coming soon. In the meantime, if you liked any part of what you heard, please, please, please do us a favor and follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're willing to go a step further, we would love for you to leave us a review and send this episode to a friend that you feel would be served by it in any way. We are so excited to finally share more about Catalyst, the community we are building in conjunction with this podcast. Our mission with Catalyst is to create an authentic, safe, and inclusive space for heart-centered, growth-minded, multi-passionate women to navigate their life's transitions, all by building meaningful relationships, learning from one another, and growing into the best version of themselves, and maybe even making the world a little bit better in the process. If you're interested in becoming a founding member of Catalyst, we would love to learn more about you and have you apply at wearecatalyst.social. Check it in the show notes. We only have a limited number of spots for this founding member round, so be sure to get your application in soon. Again, the website to apply is wearecatalyst.social. We look forward to the possibility of getting to know you on a deeper level and supporting you in navigating your life's transitions. We cannot wait to have you join us for the next episode. Until then, we encourage you to lean into your community and embrace the growth that inevitably happens when you're in transition. See you next week.